And thank you all for joining
Cleaning.
us. Well, I guess we can kind of go ahead and get started, Jessica. That's all right with you. We have a lot of
Yeah.
great things to talk about today. And so it's going to be around the client intake playbook, turning those prospective client consults into a profit pipeline. So I'm joined by Jessica Paxton from Smith.ai. And
Hello.
you're likely here because you're looking at ways to optimize your client intake process and really make every minute of your consults count. So we're both going to explore some, tweaks that you can make to your intake consultation strategies and really hopefully lead to improvements in both the efficiency and profitability of your firm. And then before kind of getting started, just two kind of quick housekeeping notes for everybody. First, we are recording this. Make sure we are looking good.
Yep.
Awesome. And then we also are going to have a Q&A feature. So please feel free to kind of utilize that throughout the webinar. If we kind of talk about a subject that you have a question on, just drop that into that Q&A. And we're going to try and reserve some time at the end for those needs. So super excited about that. And to get rolling, let's start with the speakers for today. So first introduce myself, my name is Libby Luff. I am the Strategic Partnership Manager here at PracticePanther. And that ultimately means I get to work with state and local bars, with legal organizations really across the country, and also with great partners like Jessica here to help support lawyers really across the country on ways they can efficiently and effectively manage their practice. So I come to you with about 15 years of experience in marketing and sales and business operations. And so that means I like to turn those strategic challenges into some untapped opportunities for your firm. And as I previously mentioned, joining me is Jessica Paxton of Smith.ai. And Jessica, I'll kind of let you take it from here and talk about what
Sure.
you do.
So my experience is in telephony and automation, specifically integrations. At Smith AI, I'm the product marketing manager. So I do everything from manage our integrations and help build them for our clients, and also manage our inbound lead funnel. So a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today are things that I actually manage on the Smith AI side. So we're not a law firm, but we have leads just like you do. And we'll talk about it a little bit more later. But, whenever you're managing your leads, it's not always about looking at other firms in the space. You also want to look at other industries to see what they're doing and what they're doing well, so that you can then apply those same best practices to your industry as well.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Sometimes you can get some good ideas from those other
Oh,
industries.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So Smith AI, we're a 24/7 customer engagement solutions company. And I see a lot of names that I recognize here, so I won't spend too much time here. But we do everything from lead screening, booking appointments, doing the full client intake, and even taking payments, primarily via phone. So we're a call answering service, but we also do that over chat on your website and over SMS as well.
Awesome, awesome. And for those who are joining that may not be super familiar with PracticePanther, we're the all-in-one legal practice management solution focused on really helping those small to medium-sized firms across really all practice areas. That's really kind of what sets us apart. We're super customizable and really helping no matter what practice area you're in, or if you happen to practice multiple areas. So we really strive to be the most intuitive and easiest to use software in the market. Lawyers like you are in practice management software every day, at least I hope. And it's ultimately here to make your work easier. So it should be pretty to look at and it should be simple to use. And so with PracticePanther, you can kind of have that seamless case management. You can automate those workflows so you know what tasks are coming up and when they need to be completed. We have these really amazing tags that I'll go into in actually this presentation a little bit later on. But it's really great to kind of identify lead sources, your practice areas, and even communication preferences. And then finally, we have that easy billing and built-in compliant payment processing as well. It's a big perk that a lot of our customers enjoy because we want to ensure they're getting paid quickly for the work you're putting in. So I think that's really, really important. And so let's really dive into today's discussion. So we're going to start with that intake and consultation time trap. And so in engaging lawyers from across the country, Jessica and I attend a lot of their various events with bar associations and other organizations. And we're hearing from a lot of them, they get stuck in this cycle where intake and consultation times really consume almost too much of their week. And so I'm going to highlight some of the common challenges that we're finding. Next, we'll get into some of the strategies for streamlining law firm efficiency and uncover 3 actionable strategies to help streamline your firm's operations. And that's really going to include enhancing that intake and consultation efficiency. We'll get into the segmented scheduling to ensure your time and your consultations are really focused and productive. We're going to talk about optimizing your intake qualification process, as Jessica alluded to. She'll share tips on how to refine your approach and really effectively qualify your prospective new clients. And then finally, we're going to explore how to streamline your process management with that workflow automation. So this is going to help you cut down on those manual tasks and offer really some practical tips for boosting your productivity. So once we kind of get into those kind of 3 strategies, we'll talk about the Smith.ai integration with PracticePanther and kind of walk you through how that works. And then we're going to wrap our conversation by discussing a customer. It's of both Smith.ai and a PracticePanther. His name's Howard Lesnick. He's with my New Jersey injury lawyer. And he's going to kind of talk a little bit about how it's really helped, both the Smith.ai and PracticePanther has really helped his law firm. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. We have a full day today and we're excited to have you here. Again, don't forget, we do have that Q&A. So if you have any questions, do drop those in. And so let's get started. Intake and consultation time trap. In this section, we're going to explore some interesting statistics about your time management. And we'll talk about why these time traps even happen and maybe share some easy to apply strategies to help you streamline these important processes. So let's start in with these key factors that are influencing your consultation and intake efficiency. So as we work with law firms, we often identify several kind of key factors, and that is, related to administrative tasks for prospective clients. It includes catching up on emails and phone calls, organizing files, maybe you're handling multiple internal meetings. All of those, factors can really consume valuable time. For those of you who are on the call who may not be using even electronic intake forms, that additional time is spent with your leads and arranging maybe even some office visits. Another thing will be providing free consultations to maybe all of your leads, and that will really add to your non-billable workload. So as a result, attorneys like yourself are billing for only 2.5 hours out of an 8-hour workday. And so that means only 30% of your day is spent on billable work, where our goal is to kind of really improve that. We want to get that percentage up. Another will be task switching and interruptions that further exacerbate this issue. These interruptions eat into your workday, and you may often hear yourself give the excuse, well, it's only going to take a minute. Well, the crazy thing is it turns out it takes more than a minute. After a University of California report revealed, it's actually about 23 minutes to refocus your attention after an interruption. And that is a lot of time, even if that interruption is brief, maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's an email, somebody popping into your office or something like that, but it can take 23 minutes to refocus your attention. And then finally, you've probably heard this, it takes, it's been a big ABA stat out there, but about 42% of all law firms, they take 3 days or longer to reply to a prospective new clients. Either it's their voicemail, their email, or a web form inquiry. So, and that's especially, problematic for the smaller law firm attorneys, those solo practitioners who are really trying to do it all. So you may recognize yourself or maybe some colleagues in these stats. But the question is, what are those leading contributors on why you get stuck in some of these time traps? And that's really what I want to talk about next. We find that there are 3 contributors affecting to time loss. And I think everybody here on the call can agree your admin work is super important. It has to be done. But there's going to be key ways in how you accomplish those tasks. The first one is that lack of delegation. Failing to delegate or even outsource tasks can lead to overload of administrative work. It diminishes your ability to focus on really those high value activities. So if you can strategically outsource or maybe delegate some of these tasks, you can free up time for more of that billable, that important work. Then you'll have those process inefficiencies, or for some of you, it may be a lack of well-defined processes at all. and these can cause significant delays and increase the amount of that non-billable work. When you create and launch these streamlined workflows, or maybe you automate some of your repetitive tasks, it helps eliminate some of these bottlenecks and improve your intake process and improve your consultations. This will include firms that offer maybe those free consultations as incentives to convert new clients. We're going to talk a little bit more about those free consultations in this presentation. And then finally, it's using those manual systems. It's important to embrace software and these automated solutions that we're going to talk about today. Digital intake forms, automated reminders, document templating. It all, helps you streamline, it helps you save time, reduce those administrative burdens. This transition helps you schedule meetings more efficiently and ensures all of your prospects will automatically be reminded about attending these important meetings. So maybe you have a low consultation show rate. Automated reminders could be a really great way to help improve that. And it doesn't take any extra time off of your plate. And so let's get to the reason I think we're all kind of going to be here today, and that's the strategies and the solutions to these challenges. And so we're going to start with that allocate your time accordingly. It's going to be important to focus on your high value activities and invest your energy in areas that really directly benefit your clients and your practice. One consideration is really evaluating whether those free consultations will be the best use of your time. Some attorneys find it practical to refer to these maybe as discovery sessions or information sessions instead, and you can consider outsourcing or employing a non-attorney staff to handle some of this kind of initial information gathering. And then next, you can optimize that qualification process. Really look at ways you can improve your intake and consultations by refining what your qualification process looks like. Delegating and outsourcing are going to be huge, like those initial client screenings, that data collection, or even payment collection to improve efficiency. So it allows you to focus on engaging with more suitable clients, the right clients for your firm. And I know Jessica with Smith.ai will touch more on this in a few slides. And then that last one is going to be, automating those repeatable tasks. And by automating things like your email communication, your workflow notifications, it can all make those interactions with your prospective clients smoother and more effective. When you streamline your processes, you ensure a timely and consistent responses. It creates a, more professional experience for these potential clients from the very first contact with your firm. Plus, when you have these quick professional responses, they matter to prospective clients because they are calling, there's a good chance they're calling multiple firms to make a determination on who to hire. So having those quick professional responses are going to be huge. And we're going to break down kind of each of these areas kind of throughout our presentation today. So let's start. We'll go with the allocating your time effectively, segmented scheduling for lawyers. For those of you joining the call, we also, a lot of people refer to this as time blocking. So that may be also a little bit more familiar to you as well. So segmented scheduling or time blocking. What segmented scheduling can do are what we find that customers who are customers that we work with, who are leveraging their time most effectively are using segmented scheduling. The core idea is to really allocate extended periods of time to dedicated work hours, dedicated work time frames. And those are for critical tasks like client needs, court cases, and consultations. This method is really considered a best practice for lawyers because it allows that deep, focused work, making your efforts way more effective. The longer and more uninterrupted these time blocks are, the greater the return on your investment becomes. So not only does this approach simplify billing by integrating dedicated time to your schedule, it also ensures that your time is protected. It's critical for delivering this high-value service to your clients and really sustaining your law firm. You need to safeguard your time blocks and inform your team or anyone you work with that you outsource to when you are going to be most available and effective. And then really to maximize these benefits, occasionally review and adjust your time blocks to ensure they align with your firm's goals and continue to enhance your productivity. So there are all kinds of impediments that, kind of can interrupt your day. But our focus obviously today is going to be those prospective client consults. And some best practices we've seen are you're only scheduling meetings and consults on certain days of the week, or at certain times of the day. We find that when you pepper these meetings kind of throughout the day and throughout the week, it can really drain your brain power and it can make it harder to refocus after your meeting. And then also consider these paid consultations. So you really focus your attention on those high value leads that are more likely to result in becoming great clients. So creating these blocks will help minimize costly interruptions and prevent that context switching. So, what does this look like? I've kind of thrown together a quick example for you. And again, just an example, schedules are going to vary wildly depending on attorneys and practice areas. Some of you may not have regular court appearances even at all, although court appearances obviously going to take priority here. And so maybe some of you also have maybe more consults than client meetings because you're keeping clients in the loop in other ways, maybe through a client portal or through dedicated workflows. I just really wanted to kind of provide a visual on how you can get started with this segmented scheduling. And so you'll see on here, we built in time for that personal prep. That's those checking emails, returning voicemails, getting your day organized and things like that in the morning and even at the end of the week. You really try to limit those meetings for staff and for business development, but still very important to include. And then again, that court and case prep, consultations, client meetings, these are important to make larger blocks of the day so you can work in several meetings or longer dedicated uninterrupted time. And so that's why we have those a little bit wider, time frames and throughout the day. And then finally, let's talk about some of the benefits, why all of this matters, why segmented scheduling matters. And one, I think the biggest benefit we're all probably aware of is that enhanced productivity. Lawyers, you're going to get more done in less time by focusing on these important tasks without those interruptions. But another one maybe you don't consider is really the accurate billing insights. You can gain a clearer understanding of your billable hours, making it easier to track and maximize your revenue. Third is that approach to, with a clearer focus. This time blocking helps reduce distractions and improves concentration on your task at hand. Remember, it can take up to 23 minutes to refocus after getting interrupted. And then finally, I think probably one of the more important ones, by scheduling personal time and breaks, lawyers can maintain a healthier work-life balance, which is a common theme I'm hearing among lawyers a lot, talking a lot about these days. I've seen lawyers put in birthdays, anniversaries, or maybe it's, Friday afternoon after 3, you definitely don't want to be interrupted, and maybe you're going to take a weekend off early or something like that. But building those times in are really great as well. So I want to pass it over here to Jessica, and so she can talk about your qualification process.
Thank you, Libby. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about, optimizing the intake qualification process, or, as some might call it, the onboarding process, or we might also call it just the lead qualification process. So let's go ahead and move into understanding the different stages of the client intake process. So it's not just signing, or it's not just filling out the form. It's not just booking the consultation. There's all these different steps that go into it. And we're going to dig into each of these steps a little bit right now. So first you have to attract clients. And that's whether they find you through your friends and family, maybe they find you via a web search, a paid ad, some other way. Maybe they Google it and your name pops up. There's all these different ways that you can attract clients. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how you attract them. You want to have your client intake process be the same no matter what. You want to ask the same questions and you want to do the same intake process. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Then there's capturing the contact information. So first and foremost, this is just marketing in general. You want to capture that client's contact, or that potential client's contact information. So whether that's a web form or a Facebook ad or they're calling, it doesn't matter. You want to capture their name, phone number, email in advance. So let's say maybe you've got some gated content on your website. Maybe you're doing some inbound marketing. You're doing a webinar like we are. This is one way that we potentially capture new clients. We do a webinar, and there's a reason we ask for your name. I'm sure everyone here knows exactly why that is, because we want to know who comes to our webinars. Then the next step is pre-screening. Even before you book the consultation, whether it's free or whether it's paid, you want to pre-screen the potential clients to see if they're going to be a good match for your firm. There's challenges that come up with all potential clients. Maybe they're going to have a limited budget. Maybe they need a different practice area. Maybe their court date has a conflict and you can't go that day. So you always want to pre-screen before you even book a consultation. And we can talk a little bit more about that pre-screening process in another slide. Then there's conflict checking. So you want to check to see if that potential lead has a conflict with your firm, or if there is, you want to know that as early in the process as possible before you spend too much time with that potential client. Then finally, we get to scheduling the consultation. So as you can see, even before we schedule the consultation, there's all these little micro steps that are happening before we even get to that consultation stage, whether it's free or a paid consultation. So at this point, you can book the consultation to really capture more information. And like Libby said, it doesn't even necessarily have to be with a lawyer. It could be just an information gathering session to see if they're gonna be a good fit and to dig in deeper with the case and see if it's gonna match. Then you sign the agreement, you collect more information, then you have the full onboarding. So there's all of these little micro steps, and I challenge you to look at your firm today and say, am I doing each of these things? Am I doing a pre-screening before I even book a consultation? Am I doing a conflict check before I even book the consultation? How much time am I spending with leads before I move on to these steps? Because these steps are where you're having those time sinks that Libby was alluding to earlier. And we'll dig into it a little bit more. Libby, if you can go, here we go. So this is a typical lead funnel, and this applies to any industry. It's not necessarily just legal, any industry. You've got your unqualified and your cold leads at the top, and then they become qualified. They go all the way down to the retained client. So each step along the way, your number of leads should get smaller and smaller and smaller, because you're going to be filtering them out as they move down the funnel. So as you look at your inbound funnel, and that's a marketing term. So if you've never heard it, inbound funnel is exactly this what we're showing on the screen here. So as you're looking at your leads and you say, okay, well, this month I've had 500 website visitors, and then 200 have completed a form, and then 200 have completed an intake. There's a discrepancy there, because it should be getting smaller and smaller and smaller as you begin to weed people out. Now, hypothetically, your website could be so absolutely perfect that you only get the highest, most qualified leads that fill out that form. But honestly, that's unlikely. So it's more likely that you get people that fill out the form that aren't a good fit, and you need to send them to a referral, and you need to tell them, I'm sorry, you're not a good fit, because we don't practice that type of law. And that's not because your website's not perfect. That's because people like me, we don't understand the difference between a moving violation and a non-moving traffic violation. I couldn't tell you the difference. And that's just because I don't know the difference, and I'm going to fill out the form, and you're going to have to tell me what the difference is, and that I'm not a good fit for your firm, because I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But as we fill out, as you look at the funnel and as you think about your firm and you see the numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller all the way down to retained client, that's perfectly normal, and that's exactly what you want. You want to filter it down until you get a smaller number in the consult scheduled, and then your retained clients are going to be the best, the ones that fit you, that are going to be your best scenario types of clients. So I alluded earlier to standardizing the qualification process. And what do I mean by that? I mean, no matter how your leads come in, you want to collect the same information no matter what. And if you're not sure if you're doing that today, then test it out yourself. Just try it out. Go on your website and pretend to be a lead. Call your firm and pretend to be a lead. Do different things happen? Ultimately, you should be collecting the same type of information. You should be asking the same type of questions. Now, they might be a little bit different in the sense of your website might say, send a form, or might be in a form format, and your phone call might be over the phone, but you should be asking the same types of questions. Now, if you're not sure, test it out. But if you do know, then go ahead and map out your intake process so that you can look at it. You want to make sure that everyone is using the same intake process as well. You want to make sure that I'm using it and that Libby's using it. Because if I'm using a different set of standards than Libby, then we're not going to get the same types of clients coming through our funnel. This should be, so that's going to be really important. Whenever we're mapping out our intake process as well, you want to think about not only what you are looking for as a business and what type of client you're looking for, but you also want to think about what your clients expect. So earlier when Libby was talking about automation and setting up those workflows, think about it from that point of view. If you filled out a web form on your website and you didn't get a response for a few days, do you think that your potential clients are going to wait that long? So think about what your clients or potential clients would expect as well when you start mapping out your systems and whatnot as well. So yeah. All right, Libby, next slide. Sorry. We're going to talk about essential elements on your intake form now. So your intake form, you really want to have key information that is going to make you, that's going to set the tone for the relationship between you and your potential client. When you have a form that is simply your name, tell me about your problem, that doesn't show that your firm is professional and that your firm is competent. But when you have a form that has more detailed information about your specific area of law, then it does. So for example, the basics are the contact information, but when we dig into the case information, that's where you're really going to show your expertise. So the case information, it's going to be, do you have prior representation? Who are the names of the parties involved? You know, for example, what's your employment status? Tell me, I think the example I used in the next slide is it a moving violation or is it a vehicular, sorry, I'm not a lawyer. Is it a moving violation or a non-moving violation? So when you're asking those specific targeted questions, you're showing your expertise in that specific type of law. So me, as not a lawyer, I'm going to look at that and go, oh, they know what they're talking about. They're asking the right questions. Do you have car insurance? Yes. You know, was there a police officer involved? Yes. You're asking me all the right questions versus if you just leave me a blank text field that says, tell me about your issue. You're not showing your expertise. You're just leaving it open-ended and allowing the potential client to put in anything that they want. So there's a little bit of a area there that you can really, really show your expertise. Now, you can even ask questions about potential conflicts of interest and things like that as well, if you'd like. Okay, so one other thing that we can do here for larger firms is when you're asking about the case information, and if you have multiple practice areas, then you can use this to make sure you're getting their case to the right department or to the right attorney. So that's another reason we want to ask this information, just so that we know on the back end, okay, we're going to triage this and we're going to send it to this department. So we also can use it that way. And specifically in PracticePanther, or whichever software that you're using, I'm more familiar with PracticePanther because we're partners. If you have different intake forms for different case types, then on the back end, you can even route them to create different matter types using automation. So that's another reason you'd want to use case information in your intake forms. Another thing you want to collect is your referral information. This is to help people like me on the marketing team really know what's being successful and what's not successful. So if if they're coming in through a current client, or if they've discovered the firm through word of mouth, online search, or paid advertising, then you want to know that so that you know what methods are effective for driving clients and what you can keep doing because it's working. Now, depending on which stage of that funnel we're using this form for, now we've got that pre-screening. Remember, we were talking about pre-screening earlier, and then we were also talking about intake forms. And you can use an intake form for both the pre-screening and then the later intake as well. We've seen both. We've seen smaller forms that are simply for the first pre-screening round, and then a more detailed, longer intake form later. But once you get to that longer, more detailed intake form that's well past the pre-screening stage, then you can put in retainer agreements. You can put in more information about your legal fees, because clients prefer you to be transparent about the legal fee process. And they really want to know what the billing process is, the payment methods and such are. So you can put that in there. And then you can also use your intake forms as a way to build in follow-up appointments if you so choose. So that's something else that you can do using automation tools such as PracticePanther as well. Okay. Forgot I built this. This is my little example of an effective and a not so effective intake form. Now it doesn't have everything that I talked about earlier, but it just gives you an example of the one on the right, which is less effective. Some things that you'll notice. The only thing that's required is the name. The contact info is not required, so you're likely to end up with someone who doesn't fill the form out completely. But there's also this just text box that says tell us about your issue, and it doesn't require specific information. Whenever we require specific information, such as tell me about the county that this was in, tell me the date of the ticket, you can use these forms and what's the word I'm looking for? link it to the custom field inside your case management software. Then you can use those fields for automation and to make sure that everything and everybody is tracking cases and tracking matters exactly the same way. Now, keep in mind, I said earlier that whenever you're looking for inspiration, you can always look at other industries as well. You don't always, have to look at other firms or other lawyers. So things like this, like county my ticket was in, this is something that a lot of service industries would do. What county or what zip code is your home in? And that's because they work in very county-based jobs as well. So you want to think about how you can just match your data, and your data, whenever you have really, really clean data, and this here is clean data, being able to say that each data has its own field. This is not clean data over here. This is just a jumbled up mess, because you're going to end up with text, you're going to end up with typos, you're going to end up with all sorts of stuff. So the other thing you'll notice, let me just undo some of this. The other thing you'll notice is right here, what ticket is my county in? Mecklenburg County. This is a drop down. And the reason it's a drop down is so that I don't end up with typos. I only service certain counties. And because I only service certain counties, those counties will never ever be spelled differently. I want to use a drop down to make sure that they're never typoed. They're always exactly the same. So little things that you can do like that will make sure that your intake forms and your automations don't break. If I were to make that a text field that someone could type in, then you're going to end up with inconsistent answers, and you'll probably end up with things that could potentially be broken. So this is just an example here, but you'll notice the differences. You can very, very easily notice the difference. They can check here what their issues are. They can check their ticket, their county, if they had insurance, and all the contact information is required. Okay, so going all the way back to what Libby said about interruptions and how impactful they are to your day, how disruptive they are to your day. One of the biggest problems that we see before clients start using a virtual receptionist or even a virtual assistant or even an in-house receptionist, is the influx of spam or influx of telephone calls and whatnot. So if you're doing time blocking, and if you're really trying to stop the disruptions, this is what I would say to you. Work on getting what your customers need, which is someone to answer the phones, right? Don't ignore your phones. I'm not telling you to ignore your phone calls and send them to voicemail, because that's not what your customers want. But consider outsourcing to a virtual assistant or something like that, or have someone, like one dedicated person in your office who's responsible for answering the calls. Don't just let them ring the entire office and disrupt everyone in the office. That's not helpful to the team. Have one designated person, hire a virtual receptionist, hire a virtual assistant, whatever you need to do. But you have to have a gatekeeper. You have to have someone who is going to filter out the non-serious and the spam inquiries. They're going to follow the intake process just like they would online. And what they're going to do is they're going to consistently qualify and keep out all of these traffic jam people that are stopping you from getting actual work done. Now, one of the benefits of a virtual receptionist or a virtual assistant is they're typically 24/7. But as you can see from here, like when you've got them stopping that traffic jam and only letting those qualified leads and current clients through, it really will help you from getting interrupted all day long.
Yeah, and Jessica makes some really great points about that. And those interruptions can be kind of just time, like she said, it
Yeah.
really sucks up your time. And so finding another way, a more effective way to do that is going to be key on your intake and consultation process. And the next will be really, streamlining your process management kind of moving forward. And so this way you can spend, ideally a little less time on those non-billable needs and more time on that work that really counts, which is, helping those new prospective clients, helping our new prospective customers as well as clients and things like that. So
Libby, before we move on, there was a
yeah.
question. Do you just
Oh
mind if
yeah,
I go ahead and answer it now? So
absolutely.
the
Let
question is,
me go back to the form too.
go back to the examples. Are these examples part of the web form? So cold leads or people reaching out initially? If so, any tips on how to help clients get to the right form at that stage? That is a really difficult question. But what you could do, Kenzie, in that case, if you have different areas of law, and you're not quite sure, someone's coming into your website and they don't have the right, and you're worried they're going to end up at the wrong form, is you can have different forms on different pages of your site. So let's say if your website has, 5 different practice areas, each practice area can have its own form. Or you can get a form builder that allows you to do conditional formatting. Say, depending on how they answer question 1, will determine how the next set of questions is revealed. So there are some out there. Libby, I'm not sure if you have any that you recommend, but there are quite a few out there that do that. So if they come to your site and they say, which of these are you reaching out about? Car issue, like I wrecked my car, or I have a criminal case, or I need help with my employment issue. And depending on how they answer that, Kenzie, then it would open up a different set of questions for them to answer. So you could do it that way, or you could put a different form on different pages. You could also simply ask them up front, like, which of these issues do you need help with? Let them answer, and then set up an automation to immediately send them another more detailed form. Do you have any recommendations, Libby?
Yeah, I definitely think kind of having that unique form on each practice area page is great because then you can even tag that form specifically which practice area it's going to be. And your communication follow-up and your workflow process is going to then match that specific form. And so that's definitely what I would recommend doing. Even if you have a contact page, and you can link to different, I need help with family law, I need help with, with maybe criminal defense. I need help with a couple different areas, have a link that then links to your page with the correct form.
Because then they can even go into different matter types, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome and good question. So,
all right. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to kind of your processes, I did want to kind of take a moment and start by talking about those paid consultations. I know some of the lawyers joining on the call might be a little bit unsure about asking for a payment on the front end, but we're finding that more and more are kind of making this switch. And if you haven't thought about it, let's dive into a couple benefits real quick. Paid consults, they're going to demonstrate a commitment that your leads are not just looking for that free legal advice, which I think a lot of us are worried about when it comes to free consultations. It should compensate you for your time and the resources that you already spent. You're helping prospective new clients the moment they reach out to you. And so it's important to make sure that you're compensated for that time and your resources. And it also highlights the value of your legal expertise, ensures your time is respected. They know the value of your service. And so many customers I work with, they are happy to apply that initial consult payment even towards future billing when leads become clients. And that really creates kind of a win-win scenario for everybody. So you're not just collecting a whole bunch of fees, you're actually applying that to kind of future needs. So when you're talking about these streamlined payments, the ABA reports that 75% of people prefer to make payments with that credit or debit card. And that's a clear demand from your clients. They are seeking these more convenient payment options. And many firms, still relying on maybe those paper checks. And that's going to be a lot harder to collect, especially for consults. So when you modernize these payments, you're meeting your client expectations in the very front end. And then Smith.ai and PracticePanther can really work together on enhancing that billing efficiency. You set up unique payment links. You can kind of see them here on the right, those one link templates. You can set up as many of those templates as you like. And you can put them directly into your operating or your trust accounts, depending upon, where they need to go. And so when Smith.ai is qualifying your leads, then they can go ahead and schedule your consultation and then even collect payment before you guys even meet. And so those are some really kind of great benefits for that one link and for using Smith.ai. And so with one link, you can create kind of flexible options. You can do like a fixed payment amount here, or you can make it flexible, depending on if you're looking for maybe a flat fee or maybe a sort of a payment plan. I've seen customers even add these one links to their websites, to email signatures, and they can even share them through text messages for super convenience. So ultimately, you want to make it easier to pay and to get paid, and you can do that using these links. Another way is to kind of optimizing your workflows. And so workflows are something we see clients using to significantly boost their efficiency. The benefits include a better collaboration among your staff and your clients, because you can assign tasks to your clients too. You can minimize maybe some of those back and forth errors and make it easier to scale your firm as you grow and take on new clients. Think about workflows as a great training mechanism for new hires or for onboarding new vendors. And they can really help improve your processes and have a reference source to kind of refer back to and improve and make adjustments on. And then another benefit of workflows is managing attorneys out there. You can easily track that task progress on your team and make sure those important deadlines are being met. So what are some of the best practices I've seen out there? One is when a new lead comes into your pipeline, that should trigger a new workflow, and it assigns those leads and any follow-up tasks to relevant team members. You can assign different staff members for different practice areas, or even the way, people have come into your system. You can assign those differently if they come in through the phone or if they come in through a web form. You can set up automated reminders. And again, this is for your staff or for your leads to complete important tasks. So you're not constantly having that follow-up need, which can be a time and efficiency killer. If you're always having to, are you doing this? Have you done this? Can you meet for this time? Those automated reminders are great time savings. You can proactively automate those welcome emails. We have a MailChimp integration, and you can keep those leads engaged about important details. And then even leveraging that conditional logic. And with cool thing with PracticePanther, you don't have to code anything when it comes to conditional logic. It's super easy to set up, and allows your processes to automatically adapt based upon, very specific criteria. And so a lot of our customers are using that conditional logic as well. And then when it comes to tags, this is a really effective way to organize your time. It's using, that tags in the case management software, because you can categorize your contacts. Maybe it's clients or prospective clients. Maybe it's witnesses or other attorneys. You can put all kinds of contacts in your practice management system, and it makes it easier to filter and find the information you're looking for pretty quickly. In addition to kind of improving visibility across your contact database, tags are great for marketing and referral sources. I know Jessica kind of alluded to this earlier. It simplifies that searching for key details about your different activities and your processes as well. And so to kind of help drive some insight using tags, I've seen customers use them to kind of help pinpoint promising and high potential value leads. And so if you have a really hot lead that's coming in or a really hot lead source, you can tag customers that way. Or if you know that a specific case type could bring in a higher value leads, you can tag those as well. Then you can tag those process statuses by tagging different intake activities, and that helps eliminate some of your bottlenecks. And then kind of one of my favorites I've seen is really segmenting your communication and marketing efforts by those referral sources or even practice area. One great example is you might treat referral leads, like anybody that comes in through a referral, as a little bit more high value than the leads maybe coming in from search engines like Google or Bing or things like that. So you're probably going to want to talk to them in a little different way, a little bit more white glove service. And social media leads, on the other hand, they might need a lot more details. Maybe they didn't do a whole lot of research on your firm. And so kind of utilizing that personalized outreach and adding more details to that communication, you can better effectively engage them and convert them more likely into clients. And so you can also use tags to build and then save reports really on those key performance metrics to kind of see how your firm is operating on a whole. And then the last one that I want to kind of talk about will be really around document templates. This is one of the biggest time savers we see for customers in the intake and consultation follow-ups. It's especially relevant for firms that still rely on that find, copy, paste method in Word. I know I've used that in the past, and it can be really time consuming, and you have to really diligently read your contracts and your documents to make sure you've got all the right information updated. And so templating helps ensure accuracy and consistency across your documents. It simplifies the creation of these documents, and it reduces time spent on those manual edits. Even Thomson Reuters agrees. They say that lawyers are seeing an 82% time savings. That's a huge amount of time out there when you're just using a quick document template. So some of the ways you can continue to enhance your efficiency, it's you can add those unique custom fields. Jessica had some in her form, actually, where you can kind of have the date of the incident or the location of the incident. Those can then be pulled into the forms later on. You can use as many custom fields that are important to your cases and relevant for your firm in your document templates. You can go beyond legal documents. You can use them for maybe specific email responses if you really want to have a specific response to various needs. They can help with letterhead, engagement letters. Think about templates more than just your contracts. But after creating a contract, one really cool thing within PracticePanther is you can immediately integrate your e-signature option and get those important documents really signed quickly. So that can all be part of your workflow, all part of your automation. And then finally, really creating that white labeling to maintain your brand's professionalism, adding your logo to invoices and things like that could be really, really beneficial as well. And so I'm going to turn it back over here to Jessica, and she can kind of walk through our Smith integration, and then we are getting close to wrapping today.
Sure thing. Since we are getting close, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A. So as I showed earlier, this is a PracticePanther intake form, and a Smith.ai virtual receptionist, they can actually fill out your PracticePanther intake forms over the phone. So if you get an inbound lead that calls your business line and one of our virtual receptionists answers, and we're doing the qualification, we're doing that pre-screening, we can do the pre-screening right here on an intake form that then, if you go to the next slide, will put all of that information. Oh, I forgot about this slide. This is just a picture of the options that shows you how you can set it up to create a new contact and a new matter after the form is filled out. And then once you get it all set up, it will then create a new contact, and it will create a new matter and a new task inside PracticePanther after the Smith.ai virtual receptionist fills out that form. You can show that in the next one. So that's simply what it looks like. I filled out the form earlier today whenever I built this. So you can see Jessica Paxton, brand new, and then filled out that intake form. It also made a task on the activity log. And then if we keep going, we have another way that we sync data back and forth. Every time Smith.ai takes a call for a firm, and this is on the next one, Libby. I'm zooming through these because we're running out of time. Every time Smith.ai takes a call, we log it on the contacts activity field as a call. Will include all the call details, the call summary. And if you click through to the next one, this is what you can see what it looks like. We'll track the time of that call so you can see how long it was. And it'll even include a recording if you have that feature with us. So you can click that link, listen to the call recording. You can link it to a matter if you need to. It'll already be linked to that contact as well. So really clean and simple integration.
Right? And somebody is doing it for you, which is the best. And I think that's
Right.
I wanted to talk about kind of Howard Lesnick here for a second, because I think that's one of his favorite aspects of this is when somebody calls in, fills out the form, automatically gets populated in PracticePanther. And when he's not even working, nights, weekends, holidays, vacations, he'll just see that in his email inbox and he's got a brand new lead ready to go. And so, these are some really great ways to kind of save some of your time on really important tasks that need to be done, but they maybe don't need to be done by you specifically. So with Howard here, he's with my New Jersey injury lawyer. He began practicing in 2000, but he ended up finding his own, founded his own firm in 2018 with a focus on personal injury, although he does manage several practice areas. And so he's your traditional solo attorney, handling it all. He's actually working on the weekend with his marketing person. And so this may kind of resonate with some of you on the call today, answering calls after hours, answering calls on weekends. And so although it's important to talk with these new leads, it's really interrupts that personal and family time. So enter a recommendation from a good friend of his. They knew he used PracticePanther and highly recommended looking at Smith.ai to answer those after hours calls. So after kind of a quick conversation with Smith.ai, he signed up. And they've been answering his phone calls actually 24/7 ever since. And that includes weekends. That includes, he says, even those midnight calls, which you can get in personal injury. You don't get to decide when someone gets injured. And so they're going to reach out to you all times of the day. And so yeah.
I'd say he's been using us 2 years now. 2 years this month.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so with us, he signed up for a free trial of PracticePanther several years ago. At the time, he didn't even have any customers. And so now, he's just trying to make it, use it, see how it all worked. And then, before he knew it, he was onboarding, 60 different cases and working through them all. So he really loves that seamless integration between Smith.ai and PracticePanther. As I mentioned, it kind of automatically creates those contacts. And then it's all available in the cloud. So he can review it in the morning, maybe when he's drinking coffee, when he's in the office, if he's on the go, headed to court. He has an easy way to kind of review those new leads coming in. So whether you're a Smith.ai customer or maybe you're a PracticePanther user, or you're maybe considering using both of us, this partnership offers a fantastic way to save time during the intake and consultation processes. You can really update your contacts, activities, as Jessica mentioned, track those calls, access recordings if you have that capability, even those transcripts. And then you can even update those contacts through web chats, which are pretty cool. That streamlines your process even further. So he mentioned now, PracticePanther is really that lifeblood of his practice and it's been a real game changer for him. And so that's ultimately our goal. I think that's Jessica's goal here in the end is focusing on what truly matters. And that's so you can look at your clients and your practice and take care of those important details. So we can take care of those other important details for you. And so wanted to kind of just highlight his experience and what he had with PracticePanther as well. So I know we kind of used up all of our time here. We were able to kind of get to a couple different questions, but please feel free. We're happy to kind of stay on a little bit longer. If you have any questions, you can drop those into the Q&A box, and we'll be more than happy to kind of take those. But otherwise, know that Jessica and I are on LinkedIn. We'd love to connect that way, kind of stay in the loop with what you're doing, and you can kind of also find out what's new at Smith.ai and what's new at PracticePanther. And we love kind of keeping people updated on LinkedIn. So definitely feel free to reach us out there too and let us know where we met and that you were part of this webinar.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone.